all ready?
Yeah!
Well, good morning, Virginia.
Good morning, Governor.
I want to first of all, Tim got this going back in Richmond a few days ago with Terry. I would want to bring my apologies from two guys who were supposed to be here as well, our great members of Congress, Jim Moran and Jerry Connolly. You know, that, yeah, Jerry. We got this day job, and they're voting right now, probably trying to stop the House from doing something a little crazy, but so we need them there on the floor of the House. Let me also re-acknowledge, I'm not going to call them all off, Terry, but let me assure you, these men and women here in the front row, particularly the folks who serve in the General Assembly, they're going to be your best friends. And sometimes, you know, Dick Saslaw knows they're going to be your biggest pains in the neck, too. But they are great Virginians, and somewhere in there's a compliment. Somewhere in there, because, you know, we always feel like with Dick Saslaw, you know, I often say about Dick Saslaw says what the rest of us think, but no, it's too stupid to say. And, you know, everybody from the press to all the legislators do the knowing nod after. Well, I am so happy to be here to add my voice to the growing chorus we're hearing from all across the Commonwealth. Because let me tell you, and there is no job more important than being His Excellency, the Governor of the Commonwealth. And let me assure you, in this race, the choice could not be more clear. One more legislator, Mark Sickles, good to see you as well. Luckily now that we've got a transportation plan, maybe you can get here on time. Some of these folks supported the transportation plan. There's some folks, including our next governor, but some folks didn't. But let me also say, you know, when I had the opportunity, and Terry and I were talking backstage, Terry and I have known each other 33 years. We were talking back how we started kind of the journey to bring Virginia back 12, 13 years ago. When I had the honor of serving as governor, and then Tim Kaine came in after me, you know, working with these legislators and working with everybody in this room. You know, we took Virginia, that in many ways had been viewed from politically kind of red state, in many of the areas kind of middle to back of the pack, and moved Virginia forward. We focused on trying to make sure that we actually bring folks together. You know, many of us, most of us probably in this room are Democrats, but you know, we realized at the end of the day, after the election, it was more important to be Virginians first. We realized as well that there was a time and place for arguments and debates over education and transportation, making sure that we made sure that every Virginian got a fair shot, no matter where they started. But we also knew that we could get sidetracked if we spent too much time on a whole bunch of divisive social issues, which are important, but among some folks feel like that ought to dominate the debate. Well, I can assure you, as somebody who takes more than a passing interest in who is governor of Virginia, that there is one candidate in this race who shares my vision and Tim's vision and all of our vision. There's one candidate who's laid out already a plan to make sure that Virginia stays competitive in the global economy, that Virginia continues to make sure that we work and produce good quality jobs for not only our young people, but for all Virginians who want to work. There's one candidate who realizes Virginia's got to have an adequate transportation system, and Lord knows we know that in Northern Virginia in particular. And there's one candidate who understands, as Lauren mentioned already, that if Virginia's going to maintain its national and international recognition, we've got to have the best education system from preschool all the way through graduate school. And I can assure you, the man with the plan is Terry McAuliffe. Chorus. Will you work with me to make Terry McAuliffe the next governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia? Now, it's not going to be easy. It should be, but it's not going to be easy. 2013 is not going to necessarily be 2012. Sometimes we in Virginia, we no rest for the weary in Virginia. We know that. We have elections all the time. So we're going to have to make sure that we work harder to reach out to folks, to make them realize what's at stake here. Now, I have been amazed. I've had a little bit of a kind of a feeling of deja vu recently reading the newspaper. Because suddenly, there's another candidate for governor who's out there with a tax plan. Remember when Virginia maybe went down the primrose path one other time with a 3-word tax plan? No car tax. Remember that, folks? And suddenly we got there and found that there was a $6 billion hole in the budget. Well, this candidate laid out, the 21st century version of that a few days ago, promising an enormous plan to cut this tax, cut that tax, and then, in classic political mode, said, how are you going to pay for it? Well, I'll get back to you on that. Well, I can assure you, as somebody who now is trying to make sure that we got our fiscal house in order at the federal level, it's easy to promise, I'm going to cut your taxes but continue to support education. I'm going to cut your taxes but continue to support transportation. I'm going to cut your taxes but continue to make and keep Virginia stay competitive. But the fact was, when we, Virginia Democrats, working with a lot of good, reasonable Virginia Republicans and a whole lot of Virginians who didn't have D's or R's or I's next to their name, but they just knew it was about getting Virginia straight. When we had to come in and pick up and clean up the mess the last time and turn that deficit into a surplus, when we came together in a way that said we're going to pay our bills, Virginia earned national recognition as the best managed state, as the best state for the business, and as Lauren mentioned, the best state for an educational opportunity for our children. So we don't need to go down the other path. The choice could not be clearer. But we all got to do our part. Will you join me in this effort? Yes. Will you make sure that it's not us just here in our room, but you'll be willing to go out and make those calls, talk to folks that you work with, talk to folks that you go to school with, talk to folks that you worship with, to make sure they realize what's at stake in this year's gubernatorial race? Yes. Will you make sure that we want to maintain Virginia's national standing as that best managed state, best state for business, and best state for a kid's educational opportunity? We work to make sure that in Virginia, everybody gets that fair shot to achieve their own version of the American dream. So if you do your part, I can assure you, there's nobody in the 33 years that I've known him that will work harder than Terry McAuliffe. Please join me in giving a rousing Northern Virginia welcome home to Virginia's next great governor, His Future Excellency, my friend and yours, Terry McAuliffe.